Nice, Sean Tatel. Always an honor to be joined by the greatest blow-by-blow man that ever did it, Jim Lampley. Jim, we're now about 24 hours out from the fight. Have people like me, in the media, have we failed Ryan by this fight going on? You know what I mean?
I understand why, in your heart and your sympathy for another human being, you might say that we as media people failed him by participating in this process that could possibly lead to some negative effect for him. But this is what he wants. This is what he's been shooting for and banking for cumulatively with all of his behaviors over the course of the past few years, up to including cultivating an image going into this event that he's in some crazy sphere of unpredictable behavior that could lead to unwarranted damage. I doubt that. It's a boxing match. They're wearing gloves. They have a referee and rules and various installations around them to keep anything really super dangerous from happening. Probably the worst thing that happens to Ryan Garcia in this circumstance, that he's not prepared to fight at his best and he loses a fight to a better boxer. And that, I think, is the most predictable result based on everything we've seen. Almost always, the guy who's banking on landing one big shot to change the fight is going to be beaten by the more skillful and adept boxer. And every evidence going into this fight suggests that Devin Haney has the technique advantage.
Well, you called Bo Galata fan man. You didn't call Tyson Holyfield, but of course you remember that rematch. Is that in play? I know you said you don't believe that'll happen because officials are in place, but is there a potential for one of those bizarre boxing nights to happen?
There's a potential every time people go into the ring for something bizarre to happen. This is not normal human behavior. We're creating conventions with gloves and medical commissions and ringside doctors and all of the various conventions that we set up to make it acceptable, to make it legal, to be sure that people understand there's a cocoon around the fighters that helps to ensure that nobody's going to die, for instance, and I've watched people die. Sometimes the best laid plans are not going to prevent something bad from happening, and it almost seems as though Ryan wants to suggest that he's in danger, either as a means of selling the fight or as a cry for help. Wouldn't be the first time we've ever seen that. If it's a cry for help, it's not yet sufficient to get him out of the fight. He's still headed toward the ring. He's still headed toward hitting Devin Haney. He doesn't have the profile of a dangerous fighter. He has the profile of a very skillful fighter. Probably the worst thing that's going to happen to Ryan Garcia is that he loses a fight to a more technically adept boxer.
He came in at the official weigh-in. We're at the ceremonial weigh-in. He came in at 143.2 pounds, which, if I do the math correctly, he's on the hook for $1.6 million to Devin Haney now. What do you make of him missing weight and not being able to win a world title if he does pull off this upset?
So somewhere in the back of his mind, he's thinking, $1.6 million, what's that? I get paid a tremendous amount of money to go into the ring and fight, and because of my social media presence and all the ways that I can reach out to people, I've got other ways of making money too. He probably feels safe and secure in the dollar arena, or else he wouldn't have said the things that he said at the news conference yesterday. He had to realize that he was talking on the record, he was in front of the opponent, he was in front of officials, state commission people, etc., when he's spouting out stuff about $500,000 a pound. I totally understand why his father seemed to want to stuff a sock into his mouth. But at the end of the day, that's not life-threatening. That's just crazy behavior, and it's not the first crazy behavior that we've seen from him. And the web, the social media universe, showers him with attention for all of these oddball behaviors that he uses to get attention.
Is he crazy like a fox, or are we seeing a young man?
We're about to find out.
Yeah.
That's one result of whatever happens tomorrow night is that we find out whether he's crazy or he's crazy like a fox.
How much of what's happening is generational? Do you think it's possible we would have seen this from Oscar De La Hoya if he were who he was in 2024 as opposed to the 1990s? Or is it, just Ryan?
Well, whether it was Oscar or whether it was somebody else, whether it was Arturo Gatti or any of the other people I've covered who were capable of extreme behaviors, social media magnifies everything in a way that standard human behavior has never before been magnified. Never before could you put a device in your living room and show everybody else in the world the inner workings of your life and the things that go on in your mind when normally you're in a private arena. So all of that has conspired to create a pathway for people like Ryan Garcia, and in this case Ryan Garcia in particular, to promote and create the question, is he crazy? Or is he crazy like a fox?
And lastly,